Talking. Okay. And then, Rochelle, I think that you did actually you had 2 or 3 clearer structural things than were in other parts of the debate, because we're coming back to the offsets and the free permits, and that's like their own separate arguments that you develop. And I thought you had some good information on that. There's a cost estimate that you talk about on the impact that it's going to have. Now, we do get competing cost estimates, and I think the affirmative has good responses to this in their rebuttals. But let's assume, for instance, that it's the cost estimate. Let's assume that the cost estimate is correct, and what's the return that we're going to get? A 4% reduction in the 20% that we have here. How is that going to make a difference in all of those global environmental markets that are being talked about? I think that's another one of those places where the affirmative needs to be pushed a little bit harder on this. And because you guys haven't, I think this is another one of those places where, because you haven't challenged the significance argument, it's a little bit easier for them, because now it's just, well, the alternative is nothing. And there's that constant statement that keeps coming back. Well, in comparison to doing nothing, it's going to be horrendous. That's when you ought to be jumping up and saying, we're not doing nothing. We know we're doing something. The EPA has done something, and it's produced these particular results. So all of the affirmative stuff about, these disasters, if we do nothing, assumes we're doing nothing. We're not doing nothing. We're doing something. So I'm not sure how significant their issue is at this point. And that's, again, one of those places where there wasn't a lot of pressure on the arguments. Let me see. Sarah, you had a 7-minute rebuttal. Basically, you had another constructive speech. I didn't cut you off. We're trying to go through, and we had time today. But when we're doing 2 debates a day, we have got to stick to the structure. And so you spend a lot of time on some of the issues. You go into them more extensively than you went into them in the constructive speeches. And by the rebuttals, we should just be responding to issues, not having to continue to develop them. And you had a lot of padding there. You're supposed to have a 4-minute rebuttal. Your rebuttal is almost twice that in length. And so you're going to have to be a little more focused in responding to the arguments. I thought the last 2 speakers did a pretty good job trying to summarize the position for each side in the debate and give us some standards for making comparisons. But don't forget to go back and look at the issues that came up and do that contrast. So the negative should be saying, the EPA is a proven organization. We know that it works. They don't dispute that it works. They just say that they can't handle this, but they want us to trust some other group that has never done this before in a free market where there are mixed motives, and we know fraud might be likely to occur, to handle the problem. I'm not sure that that's a good policy decision to be making, and we ought to be hesitant about that. And then the affirmative should be coming back, and you did to a large point say, look, we can't afford to wait. The actions that we're taking are insufficient now, and if we create all these incentives, we're going to get some of these results. I did see right at the end, Christian, you had this evidence about renewable energy and all the jobs that are going on. This is the first place where somebody starts to quantify the argument that says we're going to get all this economic development as a consequence of putting in cap and trade. And that was one of those things that might have come up earlier. If the negative had pushed you on it more, I think that it might have been an earlier argument. As it is, it seems like you're coming back to an issue that was talked about in the constructives. Nobody's really talked much about in the rest of the debate. And now, well, I had it there. It was in the first affirmative constructive, so let's throw in this jobs issue and all these benefits that we're going to have. Yeah, it was a significant claim there. The fact that they ignored it, and then you ignored it, and then they ignored it some more, doesn't mean that it wasn't there in the first place. So I thought that was kind of not a bad idea to come back to. Of course, one of the things, there's always something to argue about it. If you got a third negative rebuttal to this, you might point out, and all of this has happened. The 2 million jobs that we have now and the 20 million by 2030, all of that has happened without the cap and trade system that they're talking about, because it doesn't say it's a result of cap and trade. It says it's a result of people trying to find green energy solutions. And again, this is one of those places. There's no suggestion that we're not going to get green energy solutions unless we have cap and trade, and that's another one of those places where you needed those presses early on. Now, I know I'm sounding like I'm really pissy about stuff. I thought you guys did a very good job in the debate. I thought you had, like I said, excellent research. This is a complex issue. You described it well. There was pretty good clash on several points, and I don't think that we got too lost. So when I'm talking about all these things, I'm just trying to find anything that I could put in here that would help you understand how the arguments went and how they could have developed a little bit different. I don't want you to think that I've been bagging on you for 20 minutes. Because I'm just trying to help you out a little bit there. I thought it was a good debate. All right? Thank you.